This is the Skeptical Student Show, created as a part of Podcast Lab by India Film Project in association with Anchor by Spotify.
Hello everyone, and welcome back to the Skeptical Student Show. I am Gavish, and it is just me this time. Today I wanted to talk along the lines of the question, do marks define us or do they matter? Now let us begin by defining marks in the first place, which can be digits may be used as an indicator of your intelligence in a particular exam, and everyone is free to have their own definition of the same. Beginning with the first segment of the show, Blast from the Past, where I talk about real life experiences. And if I were to talk about the role of marks in my life, I think the one time they affected me the most was back in 7th standard when I got my first maths answer sheet back, and it was a 9 on 20. It came as a shock of realization to me that I wasn't simply good enough in maths, or perhaps I wasn't putting in much efforts to say the least. The struggle with maths continued through 8th and 9th standard when I used to have sleepless nights and I used to break down solving problems or panic while doing sums, but I still managed to pass every single exam. It was until 10th standard when I finally decided that I would not let mathematics ruin my board score, and I literally worked my A off. I mean it. This included taking home tuitions, for the first time in my life by the way, because I was more of a self-study sort of student. Staying back in school after dispersal with my maths teacher. I even resorted to mugging up some steps of the solution if necessary, and you might think so foolish, but I would say it worked for me at least. And finally, I surprisingly scored 84 out of 100. The universe blessed my examiner because I remember missing out on the last question of 5 marks due to lack of time. I knew for the fact that maths wasn't my cup of tea, and I had to drop it as soon as I had the chance to do so. And so I went on to take up humanities, which you would know if you listened to the previous episode. But does that define or affect me in any way now? I don't think so. Point being, if you recognize your strengths and weaknesses and still choose not to act upon it, you are making a mistake. Moving on to the next segment called Problem Pinpoint. There is something very wrong with how the society at large and the Indian society in particular views marks as. Most Indian parents want their child to top the class, which is practically impossible because only a single student may succeed in doing so. Hence arises the problem of a faulty goal. Also, there's a glorification of marks in our society where more value is assigned to them than necessary. This is a root cause to many issues sprouting from it, like a student feeling incompetent, worthless, or incapable of matching the exaggerated expectations of the society. However, this does not in any way mean that we must take pride in scoring low, because I've come across this very dangerous trend in recent times where being academically indifferent to your marks is glorified and is even considered cool, which it definitely is not. It is very easy to blame our evidently inefficient education system, but what takes courage is taking responsibility of our choices, actions, and ultimately our life. The blame game needs to stop. Lastly, another problem is, which I think most of you would agree to, is the diminishing value of a degree in modern times. With the Seeking Solutions segment, it will be safe to say that the diminishing worth of degrees can be addressed with the fact that practical knowledge and real-life experiences and skills, like communication, how well can you engage with people, networking, how well can you associate with people, and emotional quotient, how well do you manage yourself in the times of crisis, are going to be counted as valuable and will be in demand in the future. Talking about faulty goals, I think the goal of each and every student must be not to top the exam, but to learn from what is being taught and give your best no matter what. Because when you compete with yourself, there's no scope of losing. I believe the end goal must be to discover your passion in life by keep trying new things to find out what suits you. Referring to the glorification of marks by society, I think we can't really control what people might say, but what we can control is to not let those things affect our peace of mind. Talking of control, you can't control the result, which is your marks, but what you have control over is how hard you try, because I can't emphasize this enough, but when you give it your all, you won't have anything to regret about later. Having tried and failed is better than not having tried at all. Moving on to the next segment called Moral of the Podcast. The answer to the question at hand today, or perhaps I would like to bifurcate into fundamentally two different questions. Do marks define us? No. Do marks matter? Yes. Maybe in the short run, they do. For example, they can definitely get you into the world's topmost institutes, from where the road to success may seem to be smoother. But who said that this is the only way to success? Because what matters in the long run is talent and hard work combined with the hunger to succeed. Secondly, cultivate your hobbies to discover your passion. Third, if overestimation of marks is harmful, so is underestimation. Next up is the supplementary segment. If you don't already know, in this segment, I give something back to my listeners to remember this episode by, and for today's episode, I'd like to recommend for you to check out the success stories of Albert Einstein and Elon Musk, who struggled academically but still made it big in their lives. You can do so through any of the mediums available online. You could read an article or check out a video on YouTube, but I definitely recommend you to do so. No, the supplementary segment was not the last segment, because the last segment is going to be response segment. Now this is a new segment I decided to introduce where I'll be running the Ask Me Anything feature on my story, and from there I'll handpick some of the responses to be discussed in the podcast episodes. Now I asked my followers, do marks define us? And some of the responses which I received were, marks do not define us. What defines us is our character and our intelligence. I absolutely agree. Another response says, be it sports, art, studies, marks are important. Example, how many goals you have scored. Marks do not define us, but they are certainly very important. They indicate that you have worked hard. Now, I certainly see the point which you are trying to get at, which is numbers don't lie. But I don't completely agree to the fact that all the numbers, be it goals or marks, stand for the same thing. Although I completely get your point, but I think I find myself agreeing more to the later part of the question, which says marks do not define us, but they are certainly important. Yes, there's no denying that marks are important indeed. Another response said, as per my point of view, marks are just bookish knowledge and one should be talented in life. Yeah, I do agree to that, but I don't think marks completely stand for bookish knowledge. Marks also stand for your consistency that you have shown academically. your hard work, your ability to grasp things better than the others, and I think marks stand for much more than just bookish knowledge. So that would be an understatement. Another person says, being a prodigy, you yourself must be knowing that 3 hours can't define your knowledge. First of all, thank you for the compliment. And I think it's not just about the 3 hours for which you sit in an exam, because years and years of hard work goes into preparing for those 3 hours. But yes, I can see the point that you're trying to make. Another person says, yes, until you realize that they don't. I actually completely agree to that. The last response says, yes, they do, but nobody will accept this fact. They will always judge but won't accept or show this to your face. I think the person is referring to the society being judgmental about the marks, and I think, as I already mentioned in the episode, that you can't really hold people's mouths, but what you can control is to let it affect you. And I think different people have different things to say to you, but I think you should always just give a deaf ear to it. My last word this time would be that marks are not everything, but they may be worth something. Also, marks do not define you, but what does is you yourself. Well, that is it for this episode. If you would want your responses to be discussed during the response segment or simply stay connected, you can follow me on Instagram. I am called GavishRaptor with @GAVISH_RAPTOR. Also, thank you so much for tuning in, and don't forget to tune in next week for a fresh episode.
You were listening to the Skeptical Student Show by Gavish Raptor, created as a part of Podcast Lab by India Film Project in association with Anchor by Spotify.